Hello, we're live. Hooray. Thanks so much for coming. Today we're going to be doing our discussion on Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun and Horimiya. This is the host club discussion for February. And before we really get into things, let's just kind of go around and introduce ourselves. So I'm Rachel, this is my channel. You probably already know that. And I'm just going to pass it right off to Nana.
Hi, I'm Nana, and from the channel Lit Nana.
Steph.
Hi guys, my name's Steph. I'm from the channel Coffee Over Apples.
And my name is Kitty, and I'm over at Bookworm Kitten.
And normally we have one other member, Preet, from the Bookish Nook, but unfortunately she's not feeling too well today, so she's not going to be joining us for now. But in the meantime, you know, we'd love to hear from you. If you're out there in the audience, I see a couple people, so let us know if you read this, if you enjoyed it. I'm just going to give a brief synopsis, no spoilers yet, to just kind of talk about what we read. So we read 3 volumes of a popular manga that was Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. This is a story about a young girl who decides to go confess her love to a guy, but through some miscommunication, he misinterprets what she's saying as an announcement that she knows that he is this famous shoujo manga artist at their school, and she ends up kind of going back to work for him as a manga artist assistant. And she finds out through this comedy manga kind of thing that actually a lot of the manga stuff that they do is based off of the people that they know in school, and it's just a very lighthearted, fun kind of story. And then the other volume that we read for the not so popular manga, that was Horimiya, and this is a story about a relatively popular girl and then more of a shut-in kind of guy who are in the same class, but they run into each other outside of school and they realize that they're totally different than the sort of personality that they give off in school. Instead, the girl is more of like a housewife figure that doesn't really like care so much about her makeup and her hair and all that stuff, and more so cares about taking care of her brother. And then the guy actually can express himself more, and he wears like piercings and his hair different. He has like cooler clothes, but at school he kind of prefers to kind of fade out into the background. So they sort of get to see these different sides of each other, but just in the company of one another. So this is what we read. If you are interested, if those things sound interesting to you, I highly recommend that you check them out. I love both of those a lot. But if you don't want to get spoiled for anything, then you may want to head out in a second. But before you go, Nana's going to tell you about the picks that we're going to be reading next month, because next month is Nana's month, and she's going to be telling us about what we're reading.
Yeah, so next month on March 28th, we're going to be reading and discussing the first 3 volumes of The Way of the House Husband. It's about a man who used to be involved in illegal activity, but then he found love, and he's currently a house husband. And I heard that the first volume is mostly one-shots, and it's very funny. And we're also going to be reading the first volume of My Brother's Husband, which is about a single dad who meets his deceased brother's husband for the first time when he moves in with him, and it's about the single dad learning to be more accepting of his brother-in-law and learning that from his daughter and from the brother-in-law himself.
So it's going to be really great. We're going to do that on Nana's channel next month, so definitely keep an eye out. Also, don't forget to join our Discord if you're interested in joining the watch parties and stuff. And we're going to be doing watch parties for Nozaki-kun and Horimiya in the coming week. But in general, you can also keep abreast of all the things that we're doing and all the discussions that we have for every volume, and catch up with all of our past live shows if you like. So without further ado, hello. I think we're going to just start talking about the manga. So if you don't want to get spoiled, thank you for coming, and we'll see you later. But if you do want to stick around, we're going to be talking about Horimiya first. That was the single volume that we read. So what did everybody think of Horimiya? Do you have like general ideas, star ratings? What do we think?
Oh, I absolutely adore this. And I do plan on like continuing on with it. I like the dynamic of like how Rachel described how the characters had a different character than what they're portrayed at school. And as somebody who personally understand what it's like, I had to like kind of take care of my sister after a while, and so I wasn't able to do a lot of things like for day-to-day activities. So I really loved Hori. She was just an absolute sweetheart, and I loved her character. And then her interactions with Izumi over time, as they got closer and closer together, it warmed up my heart quite a bit.
Yeah, I think what Rachel said, it didn't stick with me until now when you just mentioned it, that they're kind of like opposites of each other, that she feels more free I guess, or she is more free at school, but he's more free outside of school, and that's cool to explore. And then also, they're such heartwarming characters because they both take care of her younger brother. I think I forgot his name, Saito, but they're really cool students and just teenagers. That they're really heartwarming kids.
They're so cute. I really am looking forward to seeing the anime versions of both of these mangas. Because personally, I feel like after reading both of them, I feel like the anime version will translate better for me. I was just thinking the whole time reading it, like, oh, this would make a really, really good, sweet anime. I hope there's an adaptation. So when you said there is one for Nozaki-kun, right? Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and there's also one for Horimiya. It just came out in January. So I don't know how many episodes are out right now, but it just started releasing last month, which is pretty great. And like I read Horimiya for the first time in like early college or something like that. So it was like a while ago. And then the fact that now it's being adapted is so exciting. And like frankly, I didn't really like remember so much about Horimiya. I just remember like the feeling I had when I was reading it, that it was so enjoyable and fun and great. But I forgot so much of it. So it was really nice to go back into it. I did give it only 3.5 stars though, because I felt like it wasn't at the point yet where like everything was fully developed. I think it was a good introduction, but I don't think it was like a full, complete story for the certain things that they did. For instance, at the end where they were like, we're going on a class trip, I felt like that was somewhat like an excuse just to have a whole thing with like Izumi's tattoos, to be like, oh my god, we had to hide the tattoos. And as soon as that thing was resolved, they were just like, the class trip is over. And I was like, okay, well, so he had to take a shower and then the class trip just ended and like nothing else happened.
Could that same scene have happened like in a gym, in a school gym? Like, oh, you got to take a shower for gym or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I love it whenever like the characters just go on class trips and like you read like a volume and it's supposed to be like one fall semester and they go on like 10 class trips. And I'm like, amazing. I love every single one. It doesn't matter. I enjoy seeing the characters outside of the school setting, like doing different things, but with the same like classmates and stuff to have the same similar dynamic. But in a different environment, usually brings out more problems. I guess like usually you probably wouldn't like bathe in a hot spring at school or anything like that, so I get it. But I also kind of felt like it was almost like a little too convenient to be like, we're only doing this for this tattoo purpose thing, and then it's over. Like, let's just move on. But I do love the fact that like they are both like very immediately taking care of Sato. Like they're both so protective of him in a way, like I don't want to say like motherly because it's not like a gendered thing, but I just feel like they're both so like protective of him and they're so kind to him. And like Izumi brought him home and like bought him a book and like bought him food and like no problem. Like it doesn't even matter because it's just like he just wants to help take care of him. It's just so cute that they have this like, you know, a person to bring them together, and it's not even like an immediately romantic thing. It's more so just like a friendship that they can both show who they really are outside of school.
Yeah, I think that even I can't really find a character yet. Of course, it's only the first volume to dislike. I feel like everyone's pretty likable. Even Toru, I believe his name was, the kind of foil love interest, I guess, who ended up just being in the friend group as well. So he's not even really a foil or a rival. I thought that was, I guess, a cool subversion. And it shows that, like, okay, there's not even going to be that kind of conflict in the story. It's just going to be a good time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay with like a small amount of conflict, but when the conflict is just like, I'm going to go confess to this person, and she's like, ooh, like, it's like a little extra drama. I think like coming out of Nozaki-kun, where it was like mostly just very like lighthearted, fun stuff, which I enjoy, I still wanted to see like a tiny bit of drama where I was like, I want you guys to like, I don't know, have like a disagreement, but then work it out and like have a good time. But I think that's like coming in later volumes, so it's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
Right, he didn't even get upset when she didn't remember his name and she was trying to find it.
That was
like,
just
there's
fun.
no conflict yet.
Because you're just like staring at like the attendance sheet and like just trying to like sneak into the boys' room and be like, say his name, like. But I mean, that's what I appreciate, though, that it is like just truly like a friendship kind of situation. And like the only thing they really like fought about was when he was saying something like, oh, I'm not like a like cool enough person, I'm not like a good enough person to hang out with you or something, and she was like, why would you even say that about yourself? Like, don't say that kind of stuff about yourself. I'm just like, this is still wholesome, like this is still nice.
I love that trope when someone's like, don't disrespect yourself. Like,
Yeah.
don't say bad things about yourself.
I think I'm suffering from reading the book too early in the month syndrome because I'm struggling to remember a lot of plot points. That was like the first book I read in February, and it's like being overshadowed by everything else right now.
Yeah, I always feel like I have to read them like right before the show so I don't forget.
Yeah, I finished Horimiya like right before I came over to the live show this morning.
Oh, hi, Steph! Oh, Steph, you should read manga and then we can come talk about it. Come on.
Yay! Join us.
But it's very cute. I'm really excited to see it like animated and in live, like not live action, in cartoon action, I guess. Because I just feel like this is one that's like very easily adaptable to the screen. And it'll just be like enjoyable to see them kind of like coming to life in a way. And like it is very different to read it like physically and then to actually watch it. So I'm really excited for like the watch parties and stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at the fandom wiki, like the character roster, and it looks like all the character pictures they have are like fully like colored in, and they just look really cute and gorgeous. So I can't wait for the anime.
Yeah. Also, I was wondering what you guys think. There was that character that's like Hori's friend who saw Izumi, who like she thinks that that's Hori's cousin, and so she's like, "Oh my god, I hope he calls me." I'm like,
oh, that was pretty funny. That might have been like one of my favorite points.
Oh yeah,
it was so brief. I was like, I want her to be like, I want the drama, but not you. It's fine.
Give me more tension.
I don't know. That's like I never like would think of that as like a trope that I love, but I do kind of love it when like two people are like in on a secret and like they're the only people who know, and then like other people show up and they're like, and they kind of have to like cover for one another. So the whole like, oh, this is my cousin, and it's like, yeah, I'm her cousin.
You know what's a good K-drama that you might like then that has that trope as like that trope as a focus? It's called She Was Pretty. I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but it's really good. So basically it's about this girl who like in high school she was the prettiest girl. And then years later after college they're all adults now, and like the stress of college and adulting, she got like adult acne and she stopped taking care of herself. So she gets a job at this place where her old like lifelong crush is now the boss. And she's scared for him to find out that she like stopped taking care of herself. So she has her friend meet up. Something happens and basically her friend ends up taking her identity so that he can think that she's still pretty, so she can have time to fix herself up. It's like this like it's like really funny. I would definitely suggest checking that one out.
Oh my god, it's almost like do you know the trope where like two people are like writing to each other and then they want to meet up, but it's like, oh, if I actually showed him who I actually am, they wouldn't like me, so I'll send my friend in my place, which is like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But it's like this, but you work there. It's like the ultimate degree. Oh my god. Yes, but I don't know. Do we have more that we want to say about Horimiya? I feel like it's like such a small volume. It was like so fast to get through that I don't know if we have like a lot more to say or like predictions or anything.
I mean, I ended up giving it 3 stars because I liked it, but it wasn't like a new favorite for me. I just thought it was cute, but also I thought it was something that I did really like about it was the whole issue surrounding what's his name, Izumi, I think his name is. Izumi's tattoos and how much that like signifies changes within Japanese culture that are still taking place as far as like a self-expression and what that looks like without connotations to other kinds of things, because it's still really taboo in Japan to have tattoos of any kind. So I thought that was really interesting because at first I was like, this is not a big deal, it's just a tattoo. But then after thinking about it, it's like, okay, in their culture, this is a really big deal. I understand.
You brought that up. I remember when I had gone to Japan with my family a few years back. We had gone to this place called Spa World, me and my brother, and they had a sign basically saying it's like you're not allowed to come in here and you're not allowed to bathe or anything if you have tattoos or any piercings at all. So yeah, like you said, it's very taboo culture where there's
So like even earring piercings?
Earring piercings?
I know for a fact that it said facial piercings, and I'm assuming like any extra piercings other than like the regular one, because
Mhm.
I had like double piercings, and I think I had an industrial at the time, and I gotten a lot of weird looks when I was walking around with my family.
Oh wow.
Really
I got stared at very badly.
interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, when I was reading it, obviously with my American brain, I'm like, what's the big deal? Just take your shirt off. Like, why is this such a problem? Or like when they were like, oh, I can't wear the summer clothes because it'll show. And I was like, but it's a shirt. Like, how is it not? Like, it'll cover the tattoo, but I guess it's like see-through enough or whatever
Mhm.
it is that if it's a darker tattoo. But it also makes me wonder, like, why do we think that Izumi, like, at a younger age was like, I'm gonna get like 10 piercings in my face and a bunch of tattoos. Cause like I feel like you don't need to have like a reason, but it also seems like very strange that in Japanese culture, if it's so taboo to like kind of like stick it to the man where it's like, I'm just gonna go to school with a bunch of like piercings in my face and tattoos and stuff and just kind of like hide it and then like kind of really be who I am as soon as like it's 4 o'clock and I'm out of school or whatever. So I wonder like what it is that kind of like pushed him to like do that kind of stuff, or like if it was a rebellion, or if it was just plain like self-expression. I don't know.
Honestly, I had gotten impulsive piercings before. I had gotten, it's called a Monroe, and it was like a lip piercing up top, and the industrial was impulsive too. Because when I went to get my original piercings, like I was just getting like small earlobe ones. I had saw them like, this looks cute. I'm just gonna go ahead and get it. It was probably just an impulsive action, like you said. It's like, you know what, this looks kind of cool. I'm gonna get it. This is what I vibe with personally to my own self-expression. The tattoos, however, that's a bit much because of how permanent they are. Because at
Yeah,
least with piercings, they close up or you can hide them. But yeah, the tattoos, I don't know why.
yeah, that's definitely true. I feel like maybe there's like a bit, right, like because Izumi doesn't really seem like the kind of person that's like, I'm doing this for like as a means to an end. He seems more like he just kind of like lives in the moment where he's like, oh, I just felt like doing this, so I did it. And it's like, okay, but what about the consequences? And he's like, oh yeah, consequences. Interesting. Like,
He definitely seems that scatterbrained. Like when he kept thinking that I think was Toru was hitting on him numerous times. Like he's like, "Are you hitting on me?" I think he was an airhead.
he doesn't understand.
No.
He's so cute.
I did really like the part with Izumi when he kind of realized that he finally had friends. Because I guess in middle school he didn't have them. And then when he was sick, I think it was his mom who asked him. And then he was like, oh, yeah, I have friends now. And that was like a really sweet moment.
That was really sweet. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Aww.
their trip, and then there's like a picture of like all 5 or 6 of them. It was adorable.
Yeah.
Yes. I was
It's
also
just like,
laughing because of when like Hori came to take care of him, and like he's like still sick, so he's like deliriously talking about, but he's like, oh yeah, she makes really good soup, but she doesn't put carrots in it, so she cuts the potatoes really big. And the other guy's like, what? Like, how do you do this? And he's just like, I can't talk. Like, no. And I'm like, but he does know because they're friends like that. But then the guy was like, wait, if I get sick, Hori might take care of me. And he came back and she was like, why are you guys sitting like so close together? And he's like, don't worry about it. Like,
Toru is going to be fun. He seems like a funny character.
yeah. I love having like the cute like friend group though, because
Mhm.
like I don't know, so much shoujo manga is all about like drama, drama, drama constantly. Like there is no peace. It is always just like these two people are in love. What are the worst possible things that we could have happen to everyone? Someone thinks the other person's cheating. This person's moving away. These people are like failing the exam so they won't go to the same college or whatever. Like they just put so much, like so many hurdles in between these two people so that when they finally overcome them, it's like, wow, like you really made it. It must be like true love. But when you just have like generally like people who like each other and are friends, it's like, what a concept to just plain have friendship. Like it's so nice and like very refreshing for me. Like I still love having like a couple drama plot lines here and there, but when it's like mostly just chill, that's just peak manga for me. I just love that a lot. It's a great contrast. But speaking of manga that's maybe not typical manga, maybe, I don't know. Do we want to talk about Nozaki-kun? Yes? Okay. What did we think of Nozaki-kun? We read 3 volumes of this. Do we want to go through like star ratings, opinions? Do we want to continue the series?
I think the first volume for me was a bit lackluster, but as it kept going on and the comedy bits just kept increasing,
Yes.
and we had more characters and we finally got to know their personalities and their interactions with each other person, it got really good. I love volume 3.
Me too. I rated volume 3 the highest.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't rated them yet. For all of these, I've kind of been struggling. I think I liked Horimiya more, but Nozaki-kun is very funny. And I think just the premise itself is just hilarious of like her confessing, but him misunderstanding her and being roped into this manga making thing with other people and then getting more people into it. That's really funny. And then the supporting characters are also pretty funny. I don't know. It's just, I think maybe as we discuss it more, I'll kind of figure out what my official stance on it is.
You know what feeling I got from Nozaki-kun? Because I struggled a little bit too, but I realized it kind of felt like, you know how you have those TV shows where you can jump to any episode in any season and it was just be funny? Like The Simpsons or something, like you cannot watch episode 1 or episode 100 and they're equally as funny and you can watch them in any order. It kind of felt like that. Like if I wanted to jump around between volumes and chapters, it would still kind of work unless it was there were certain chapters that were like a continuous story.
Yeah, I think like after maybe like the first volume and a half, for the most part, you could kind of like jump anywhere. Because I think by volume and a half was when everyone's kind of been introduced at this point. So like, first of all, I agree. Like Kitty, what you were saying, like the first volume definitely felt a little bit weird to me because I think the author was kind of sticking to like a very strict like 4-panel structure where it's like like the panels are like this big instead of being like page sized, so it feels like you can't fit as much into it. So it would be like setup, pause, joke, which is like usually the 4-panel manga style, and usually it's only at the end of a volume of manga where you already like know all the characters. But having to do the entire story in 4-panel manga, I was like, I'm a little worried, like what if it doesn't like translate as well, because what I'm going off of is what I enjoyed from the anime. But I was also like very happy that by like halfway through, like by the time Mikarin was introduced, then it was like sort of like a full like page length thing, so you could actually fit a whole bunch of stuff into every panel. So even though it still remained like a 4-panel style, it really like kind of figured out what it was supposed to be and then kind of continued with the story that it was meant to show, instead of just being like, let's just do gags every single one. There was still like a thing at the end where the person would be like, but blah 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 blah, but then like it won't like totally throw off the whole story. So I think like when Mikarin gets introduced and then you kind of see like what kind of person he is, it's like okay, now I'm enjoying this. And then by the time, I think it's somewhere in volume 2 where Nozaki's friend who used to do basketball, who is like Sio's like foil, I guess you would say, when he gets introduced, then at that point I think it is like pretty easy to kind of mostly skip around, I would say. I'm curious though, who is everybody's favorite character? Because my answer changed from when I first watched it to when I started reading it.
I think mine was Seo. Was her name?
Seo.
I love Seo. She's so great.
I like her.
I love the whole dynamic between her and I think it's Wakamatsu.
Yeah, their dynamic was my favorite.
How they're going on like accidental dates and she's just like trying to be genuine and he's just like trying to like base everything off of like a shoujo manga and then she's like, this is how it's supposed to do. And he ends up giving her like mittens thinking he's trying to do it, and she's like, oh, he's just giving me a gift because he likes me.
I think I liked Nozaki. Like I just remember the scene where he was also sick and then he accidentally texted all of them to bring the ink and he was like, oh, sorry. That made me laugh.
Oh, that was so great. I love that scene.
I also like Nozaki's relationship with his editor.
Yes, Ken-san. And he's like, I love Ken. Isn't Ken great? And then Chio's just like, I don't think he likes you at all. Like, I don't think so. And he's like, no, he's so cool. And like Nozaki doesn't really like know how to describe people, which is hilarious as like an author, that you would think he would have to like be really good at this stuff. And he's like, Ken is the kind of person that he's very smart and very cool, a very adult-like person. And so she was like, oh my god, what if like Ken is like this really like attractive woman and she's like a seductress, and every time Nozaki meets with her, it's like, oh my god. And then she meets Ken and she's like, how is this what you just said? How? No.
They're so cute. I really like that the last volume was really revolved around them like doing studies or like trying to figure out how to make the manga more successful. I was cracking up the whole time,
There was
especially with the tones.
yes, the
love,
screen
like,
tones.
I love like the cup when he was just like drawing like trying to get better backgrounds, and then he's just like, all right, draw a cup behind it, and then he just draws like a similar cup, and he's like,
It's just like floating above it. And he's like, no, behind it. And then he just makes the table longer. And it's like, no, you can't. No. Didn't this volume also have the thing with the boxes?
yes, I think it
And they
did.
were just like, well, you can't just have people on boxes all the time. Like, why is she on a box? And he's like, no, it's fine. And there's like a panel where it's like, lately boxes have become really popular in this area. And it's like, you can't just do this in your story. No.
Yeah, and then they start taking like reference pictures of like them standing around doing places, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't the right height. Well, you're too tall and she's too short. They're close enough, but not too much." And then there's like they go back on boxing. He's like, "How are we back at boxes?"
Yes. And then wasn't Hori the one that like they were back at the drama club and Kashima like couldn't reach something, so she got up on a box and he's like sleep deprived and he's like, I told you no more boxes. And it's like, oh my god. Oh, I love that so much. So when I first started like watching the show, Mikurin was definitely my favorite because he's just so wonderful, like being the kind of person that's like he thinks he's so suave and cool, but the second he says something out of his mouth, he's just like, why did I say that? Why did I like don't look at me? Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed. And it's like if you just weren't embarrassed, you would probably be like the suave kind of guy that you think you are. But he's actually just like a secret dork the whole time, which is so great. And like the thing with like the video game where like Nozaki and Mikurin are like, we're gonna play this video game just so we can like learn about girls, and then the whole time they're like, wait, the best friend, how come he never ended up with let's write a story about him. Okay, who should we have him end up with? Wait, the person he should have been with all along was the main character. So like when Chio goes to the house the next day and she's just like, what happened? Like they're just collapse on the floor, and it's just like a manga of the two of them being like, I've always loved you. And it's like, what happened? Who are these people?
Yeah, I love like the when they were playing the dating games, because there's another one where they were like instead in the character of like the female perspective and then dating other guys, and they're like, wow, all of them have such interesting backstories, and then one of them was like secretly like a devil or a Satan or something.
Yeah, every single person like just seemed like the girl was just like a yes man every time they were like, what do you think of this? And she's like, yes. And they were like, wow, this is gonna be so easy to win over all these guys. And then like a time skip must have happened, and every single one had this like weird like future thing where like one of them turned out to be a gangster, the other one was like, now that you're mine, I'll never let you leave, and the other one's like, actually, I'm the devil. And the girl was just like, the devil from my past life. And it was like, how is she so okay with this? Like, why are we not talking about this? Oh my god.
Something I want to see, and it might come up in later volumes, is like being that he's this whole I forgot the name of the manga that they're actually working on, but it's supposed to be like a pretty popular like monthly shoujo manga, right? So like he has to have a fan base. So do fans come into this at some point? Like,
yeah, I would love to see like even just fan letters and stuff for people, but I don't know. I haven't like gotten that far reading it myself because I'm somewhere in the middle of like volume 5 right now. But
I'm making a prediction that something's gonna happen with fans, and Chio's gonna be like, "Oh no! What if his fans like convince him to do a harem or like one of those like crazy things?"
Yeah, I would not be surprised. I feel like Chio's always like, "Oh no! What if it's this?" And it's always like the most innocent possible like conclusion at the end.
Oh yeah, like
speaking of which, that last in the last part of volume 3 with the. I don't know who it was, but that one lady who was listening in on the conversation talking about cheating, I was like, that was golden. I was cracking up.
That was it was like, okay, so Nozaki has a neighbor who's also the like manga artist who's in college, and it was like her college classmate who was like, oh my god, it's her and her boyfriend who is so elusive because she's always on the phone with someone mysteriously. And meanwhile, it's just like two manga artists just discussing like, what should we have our characters do? Like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? But I love just like seeing the kind of like behind the scenes type stuff about manga, because like if you've read enough manga, then it's like it's something interesting where you're like, how do people like think up what to do next? But you also notice so many tropes where like they mention that like the end usually will just like say the name of the book or something where they're like, and now that we're together, it's like blah blah blah, and they'll just say like the title of the manga. But then like the college student always just writes like Tanuki's Wonderland, so it's like now that we're together, it's Tanuki's Wonderland, where it's like this does not work. Like no, we can't just do this. But it was so great. I loved it so much. I feel like my new favorite character is Hori though. I guess Miyamura Hori, the the club president for the drama club.
Oh yeah,
It's like opposite Kashima. He's
the one that they were always them and Kashima were always like bickering.
yes. He's the like drama club president who is like too short to act now because he's too good at acting. So every time he's cast in like a short role, then he stands out too much, and the short roles are usually like background characters. I love him. He's so great. I don't know.
He is definitely like tsundere as hell, and it's funny to see because usually like tsunderes in like anime or manga, they're usually females, but it's funny to see like a male perspective for that. And I feel like a lot of like character roles they switched up like the genders at least. So
yes, yeah. I thought that was really cool actually that like what Nozaki kind of did was he just looked for like the personality of the person that he wanted to write about, and then he usually ended up like swapping the gender of the actual person in real life to put them in his manga. So like Mikorin was supposed to be like the protagonist who's a girl in Let's Love. So just being like, oh, like she gets like embarrassed easily and she makes mistakes or whatever. Like it's not like she's the one saying like these suave lines and then like hiding in a tree or something. But at the same time, it's like that personality. He's like, oh, this would be good for the protagonist who happens to be a girl. I'll just write that. And like he never really like stops to be like, oh, this is exactly a guy, so let me find like a guy character to do this thing. But I feel like that's kind of what's really refreshing about it is that it's never really like, let me like directly translate this from one thing to the other, but it's so open and like anybody can be anybody in a way.
Well, yeah, how like Kashima is basically like the prince of the school and always just flirting with the other girls, and I'm like,
yeah.
just like constantly has like a little harem behind her, and I'm like, how do you do this? It's long.
I don't know if it was in these volumes or if it was after, but I think there's a point where like a whole bunch of them meet together, and then because Hori was like, don't tell anybody that I work for you, like as a backgrounds artist or something, then someone was like, hey, like why can't we tell people about this? And it was like, because if people know, then Kashima will probably like show up here, and she has such a huge harem that it'll just be like thousands and thousands of girls just being like, wow, this is amazing, the thing that you're drawing. And the like Nozaki's like, I don't think that's actually going to happen. But Corey's just like constantly thinking like, what will Kashima ruin by being so popular? Like what?
So wouldn't that be a good thing to have more word spread around that they're working on this really popular manga?
I don't think so, because I think the problem would be like interfering with their work of actually getting it done.
Oh, I see.
It would like show up at Nozaki's and try to help, and then it would just be like, we're never going to get any work done. But I also thought it was really funny when they were like trying to do the screen tones and like cutting everything out, and they were just like, man, this is so hard. And then Wakamatsu's like, hey, I did. And they were like, juniors have to do the screen tones. It's actually your job as the person who's the newest here. You have to do them. It's grunt work. And it was like, okay.
I love when they were trying to like identify it, like when he was like, yeah, I like to nickname the screen tones. This one seems like this person, that one seems like this person.
And all the bad ones.
Yeah, all the aggressive ones were Seo. And there's like,
Yes. Oh my god, and when Nozaki was sick, and they were like, okay, we'll take care of the screen tones, and they got them all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hi, my name is this, and it was just like this dark, like, terrifying background. And he was like, look at Suzuki, he looks depressed, and he just had like the sparkles at all times, because they were like, Suzuki's just always so sparkly at all times. And I'm like, read the room, no.
Actually, I was wondering I'm sorry, Nana, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'd love to watch the anime. I feel like when I was reading it, even though they're not really similar stories, it reminded me of Haruhi Suzumiya in the sense of like just coming together for a club in a sense to just like do something and like it not really working out all the time.
I could definitely see. That's another good one that we should probably consider reading the manga for.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good one.
I only watched a bit of that anime as well, but I kind of see what you mean. Like, I feel like having like witnessed the anime first for Nozaki-kun, it just kind of like always made me just like want to watch more and more as I kept reading, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to like watch this with everybody because it's gonna be so great. But I feel like it is again like a story that very easily translates to the screen, and I think it also would work because it won't really be in the 4-panel style anymore, so it could probably flow a lot better in one episode too.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But I was also gonna say that like it was really interesting watching the like how you were saying about the background information of like what goes into a manga, because I feel like most modern day manga are not really done like this anymore. Like using the sticky tones and using the like ink and all that stuff, it's all done digitally now. So it's really interesting getting to see that kind of like traditional work. I don't know if like whether it's just because like I know some comic artists here, they all do it digital, or if it's like in Japan, it's still like we're keeping this tradition, like keeping this tradition alive as part of the industry or something. But I thought that was really refreshing.
That's the thing is like I grew up in like reading manga that I didn't realize at the time, but was like from like the 90s and like early 2000s. So it's probably at a time where like doing any manga digitally just wasn't possible because you just didn't have the kind of technology or like the ability to do that. So like I read a lot of Arina Tanamura, and there's so much intricate art that goes into like every single panel and every single page that like the idea that somebody has to draw that on a piece of paper that's like this big, then ink it, then do the art, then do the screen tones, then do like the coloring if it's like a full page color spread, and like every single page over and over again. Like no wonder like one page takes like a whole day's work to do. But it's just like that's just always like what I knew at the time. Also, hi Lois, hello. But that was always what I knew. So like the idea of like doing it digitally didn't occur to me until like my friends and I were like, oh wait, we could probably like draw comics if we wanted to, not on paper. Let's try doing it like on the computer. And it was just so much easier. And I was like, why don't manga artists just do this? Like, oh my god, it must be so much easier. But I wonder if it is like a tradition type thing, and like some people continue to do that stuff.
Probably. I have the couple friends that I have who do comic books. I mean, they don't even get paid a lot. So like if you're, I don't know what kind of like, I'm assuming it was like a shoujo jump or whatever, like those monthly subscriptions he was sending Let's Love to. But like a lot of the time when the artists send over those first few volumes, that's just like their labor of love. They're not getting paid for that. It's like, okay, I'm going to send this, and if I get accepted, then they start getting paid like per commission of however many volumes per like monthly publication. But for the friends that I have who work for like publishing houses and things, they only get paid like between $7 to $12 a page.
Oh wow.
It really depends on like how many volumes they're being asked to print, or how popular it is. So a lot of them like try to do all of the inking, all of the tones. They do everything by themselves so that they don't have to then, split that up amongst a team.
Yeah.
Especially when it's a less popular work, because then it'll end up being like, okay, everyone's getting $2 to $3 per page.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it definitely has to be like a labor of love. And I feel like even with like Nozaki-kun in a fictional world, like there was a part like at the end of volume 3, I think, where they showed like all the character pages. And then at the end of one of them, it was like the amount that assistants get paid will be covered in future volumes. And I was like, so do they get paid or not? Because like,
not really. They don't really get paid very much unless it's directly through.
Yeah, no, he must get paid like this amount, and then from that he has to like cut out whatever for the assistants. But he has like 5 assistants now, so it's like,
yeah. So it's like from one volume, the one artist could make a lot, because if it's like, let's say it's $8 a page, but then in that one volume there's like 200 pages. So it could potentially be like $1,000 for that one volume, but the amount of hours it takes to do one page, you could probably do 1 to 2 pages a day.
Maybe, yeah. But even then, it's like how many hours goes into that? Hi, Adam.
Yeah, a lot.
Because I mean, if you spend like 5 hours making 2 pages, and you only make what $16, so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. So you wanna, something that I learned is like you always want to include a royalty fee in case that volume ever gets more popular in the future. You can always get a percentage of sales from that past work. So that you're kind of like banking on, is this particular series that you're working on going to blow up? And then that's where your future income kind of sits.
Yeah.
Well, also, I'm curious. Like, again, this is sort of like a fictional thing, but have anybody here read Bakuman?
I read the first couple chapters of the first manga, I believe, a while ago.
It's very, very dense, like, because it's the same people who wrote Death Note. So if you remember Death Note, I'm assuming that everybody read Death Note. I shouldn't assume.
Watched it, haven't read it.
I watched it. Same.
Okay. Number one, read it. It's very good. It's better. But of course, I'm going to say it's better. But if you read it, all of the bubbles are like so dense, and like a single page could take you like 10 minutes to read the entire thing and fully understand it. For like some of the like more dense pages, so it's definitely not like a typical manga. So it's like the same people who did that, but Bakuman is about like the manga industry and like these two friends in high school who were like, wait, you're really good at drawing, you're really good at writing stories, let's come together and make a manga. And it's like very behind the scenes on the industry of how exactly it goes from like creation to production and everything. I was like, I didn't really want to do that like alongside Nozaki-kun, even though maybe it would have been like a good parallel between the two because they're just totally different moods, and I just wanted to do like cute, fun Valentine type love story stuff. But I do recommend, if you guys are interested in like more of like the manga industry stuff, to check out Bakuman. I think I've read like a volume and a half, to be honest, because it takes so long to read, but it does seem pretty cool. It does seem pretty interesting. And I know there's like so much that goes into it in terms of like the money that people make, but also like all of the standards that you have to hold yourself up to. Because I think also that was a part of it, like in Nozaki-kun, that the editors would have to be like, hey, you have to change this thing, or like this part's no good. And like even with like Maino-san, where he would be like, this is no good, I can't explain why it's not good, but it's just no good. And then Nozaki would just hand it back 3 days later, and he's like, yes, you made all the changes that I asked for, thank you very much. And it's like, some editors are just like that, you know?
Hi, Mabel.
Hi.
I'd be really interesting. Sorry, I'd be really interested in the marketing of it as well. Like, how exactly can you get your manga to be super popular once you submit it to one of these, mediums?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like don't know the correct for sure answer, but like my understanding of it from, like reading like manga artists like little side panels and stuff, but it always kind of seems to be like, you submit your manga, the editors think it's good enough to put it in like the like new artist release thing, and then like people will write in and be like, oh my god, I really love this thing, and then enough people who get like votes, because they'll ask you like, please vote on like your favorite out of these. Whoever gets like more votes is like considered like, okay, this is popular enough that we'll serialize it, and then we'll give you a deal, and then you can start making manga.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool that it kind of like goes back to the people who are reading it. So it's like you really have to appeal to the masses, but that's also again kind of like falling back on the artists to be like knowledgeable enough of what people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's hard to like break into the whole industry in the first place, but that's also kind of why it's like, I don't know, like that's so serious, it's so like difficult, but it's kind of nice to like see everybody in Nozaki-kun, which is kind of like, you're already part of that. It's not too serious. It's just like, let's just have fun with it. And yet, like, for a person who's like serialized this really popular manga, he still like makes all these mistakes with like when they have like Suzuki and Mamiko right next to each other, and then like she's on the other side of him, and then she's on the opposite side of the table, and it's like, you should know by now how to like put your people where they should be and don't put them on boxes and stuff. But he's still like kind of learning all that stuff.
I totally forgot about the miniature house gag.
Yes. And then he just put up like an eviction notice at the end.
So I'm curious, how, before this team came together, how was Nozaki successfully running this manga without knowing how to do some of these things? Like,
I like to imagine, for example, like the backgrounds he's terrible with. So he's probably just putting like a massive tone in the back instead of like having to have anything detailed whatsoever, or just maybe like just like toning pictures of like flowers or something.
Yes, I remember like his like break-in stories or whatever, like the first 2 or 3 volumes he did, where like, I found my love in the dark, because he didn't know how to draw back, so he would just put like really dark screen tones, and it would be like, I can't find my person. And then like the second one was like, we found love in a forest, and he just used like the forest screen tone for everything, and it was like, yeah, I guess you could do that.
And I would like, and going back to like how you said like manga artists will probably get paid that much. doesn't he live in an apartment by himself? So I would imagine the rent is pretty expensive. So if that's the case, I really want to know how much he's getting paid or how popular this manga is for him to be able to
Yeah.
afford his parents to like be like, yeah, you can go ahead and live on your by yourself. As like, how old are they? 16, 17 years old?
Yeah, they're in high school.
I think that might be in volume 4, if I'm not mistaken, because there was a part where like Nozaki's brother shows up and they're going like back to his parents' house. And then there's like a whole discussion about how his parents were like, you shouldn't move out because you're just a kid. And he's like, no, it's better for like my health and my job. And they're like, this is not how a high schooler should be thinking. And it's like, well, I can afford it because I make this much money from my manga series. And I was like, how much money is that though? It's like a lot. Like, what?
He just shows like a stack of money.
Yeah, it's like
yeah, he had like a sketchbook or something, and then like he just like flipped it over, and I'm like, oh, okay.
It was great. Bakuman sounds so interesting. Oh, Welcome to the NHK is also something that I've been meaning to check out as well. I don't know if anyone else here has read or watched it.
Does the NHK stand for something in Japan? Because I feel like that's a really popular acronym, but I don't know what it means.
Yes, but I don't remember what it is. I have to look it up. I'm not sure.
Speaking of dense manga, this is totally a sidebar conversation, but I'm still struggling to get through the final season of the Tokyo Ghoul manga because it just got so dense.
Yeah.
Wait, the last Tokyo Ghoul or re-Tokyo Ghoul?
Re-Tokyo Ghoul, like the final season of the manga.
Okay.
I'm so struggling to get through it still.
Oh, hi!
Hi!
Oh, I'm so glad you adore the anime. It's wonderful.
I'm definitely going to be watching both of these animes. I'm excited.
Yeah, I cannot wait for the live show. It's just like I haven't had any time to really watch anime, so these live show or these watch parties have been like a nice relief, especially when we watched Overlord last time. So
yes, please. Can we please schedule pretty soon?
Except for I fell asleep watching Overlord.
Oh, that's okay. I don't blame you. We didn't get a plot till episode 3.
I was episode 3 when I fell asleep. Oh my god. I mean, you know, it's fine because I do enjoy having like the variety of like good and bad, whatever, you know, like it's fine.
Oh no, it was definitely.
But yeah, I am really excited to like do the watch parties and stuff. That'd be great.
Yay!
But I do think we're scheduling. Like, I don't know how much of it we want to watch. It's really dependent on like what everybody in the club wants. Because if people are like, let's just keep watching this, that's fine. We can definitely do that. But I think we probably want to like start watching that stuff within the coming week. So if you're watching this, definitely go let us know in the Discord, in the stream party scheduling channel, what time, what day works for you to watch stuff. And I mean, I think like whoever's able to like stream it will probably have like the final say, but we'd love to know like when you guys are free and like who can watch it with us.
Yeah, because for me, I think the best times of the week I can do are like Wednesdays, like because those are the days where I'm like working like a double shift or working.
Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday is probably fine with me.
Yeah, that works. That's actually Wednesday evenings work really well for me.
Yeah. So excited. Yay. Well, I'm also really glad that like people enjoyed the manga, I think. You know, Nana, do you have like a consensus in general?
I enjoyed both of them. I think that I liked Horimiya more, but it doesn't mean that I like it less. I'm still unsure on like a star rating. I'm between like a 3 and a 4 because none of them were bad at all. It's just like which one do I like better? But I enjoyed reading both of them.
I think I gave the first volume like, I mean, like, I definitely have the, like, somewhat nostalgia factor, but I think my first volume I gave, like, 4 stars, and the rest I just kept giving, like, 4.5, because, like, I love them a lot. It still makes me really happy, but I just don't feel like they're quite at, like, the 5-star feeling or anything for me, even with, like, the nostalgia attached to it. But they're definitely, like, nothing, there's nothing wrong with them, because I just continuously want to just keep reading more and more and more, and, like, watching the show, which is great.
It's always difficult when, like, there's nothing wrong with the story, but for some reason you're like hesitant to give it 5 stars, even though there's nothing wrong with it.
I get that. Like I feel like in order for me to rate a book 5 stars, it has to have that feeling that feeling of like, oh, I want to scream about this from the rooftops kind of feeling.
Yeah.
4 is usually reserved for like, it was really good, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm not like 100% in love with it.
Yeah.
I think for me, like a 4-star is just like, it would be a 5-star if I had the 5-star feeling, but I just don't have the feeling. So like, it's great. Like 4 is great, 3 is good, 2 is okay, 1 is bad.
Yeah.
And 5 is like incredible, amazing, show-stopping, suddenly beautiful. Can't stop talking about it. Like
There can be 100 books in a room, and one.
Like, so I don't know. But I was really happy to like. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like sometimes I just get very excited to like do our live shows and stuff because it means that I get to read the manga to do the live show, and I feel like manga is like sometimes an excellent like escape from the world into it because it's always, for the most part, like unless we're reading something like really like scary or sad or whatever, it's usually just like a huge serotonin boost for me to just read something. Like even if I'm not like, oh my god, I love this, 5 stars, it's still just nice to read it and like get immersed in a series and in a world like that. And I just feel like manga is on its own, like a very separate not genre, but like a whole section of reading that is just very, very different. It contains its own tropes, it contains its own culture, but when you're familiar with that, it's just very fun to escape into that world for a while. So I definitely was like really happy to read like Nozaki-kun and Horimiya and just like do something that was like a little bit different from my regular schedule of reading other things.
Definitely, yeah.
Sick one on Monday morning, and that's when I read the most of like Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun. And I was just sitting in bed scrolling, and I just kept going. And I think I ended up on like book 4. By the time I was done, I'm like, all right, I'll go to bed. So yeah, like you said, Rachel, it's like a nice break from like everything going on. You sit back, especially depending on what genre you're reading. Like shoujo, I enjoy just blazing through because it's definitely like, oh, there's a little drama, there's some cute stuff, and then it's just like, oh, that was a relief from my stressful work day.
Exactly, yes. And I feel like manga's also so easy to get through, so like you have enough story in like one sitting to really get through to really enjoy the whole thing. Whereas I think like with a book, sometimes you have to read like for 100 pages before you really get to like the meat of the story. So
and I appreciate like like because a lot of people they have trouble with reading. It's like, oh, I can't imagine. It's like, well, with manga, it's right there. They draw
exactly,
the
yeah.
scenario, they draw what's going on, they have a little bit of dialogue, so it's just really easy to get into and then just blaze through a lot. I remember I would just like read like at least 10 volumes and like over the span of a weekend when I was younger. So,
Yeah, I miss days like that when I could just like sit back and just read and read and read for the longest time. And like, I don't know, like this just like certain volumes just remind me of like completely other genre series that I enjoyed so much. But it's just like the feeling of like getting immersed in the world. Like Case Closed, nothing to do with this at all. It is a murder mystery series. It has nothing to do with this. But it's the kind of stuff where I just can't stop reading it. It's just so fun to read, and it's kind of like the same feeling of just getting sucked in.
Yeah.
I just love it a lot. It's great.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's been a lot of classic books being translated into manga lately.
Oh yes, I've read
those.
I read oh my god, Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, was it good?
It was actually pretty good. The thing is, I don't know anything about the Count of Monte Cristo, so when I started reading it, I accidentally read it from the wrong side because it was a NetGalley arc, and I guess like the way it was like put into the app was like upside down or something, so I didn't realize I had to like start all the way at the bottom and then scroll up.
Oh, good to know.
Or something. So I was like reading it and I was like, this makes no sense. Why is this person dead and now they're alive again? I don't And like I finally figured out, I was like, are you kidding? I read 75% of the book backwards and now I'm gonna start over. Oh my god.
I know that happened. I started the Devabad trilogy and I actually started the second book first.
No!
I know, and I got to, thankfully, I think I only got to chapter 2. And so by the time that I went back to City of Brass, I didn't remember much. So I just remembered like one character's name, but that's pretty much it.
Oh my god. But
I know.
So much happens in like the first chapter of Kingdom of Copper where they're just like, hey, time skip for 5 years later. And I'm like, so much is happening. Oh my god. I'm glad that you like stopped where you did to like restart. Oh my god. Dababa is also incredible. It's amazing. Love it.
I actually like when I was looking at Kindle sales because I'm a sucker for those. I accidentally bought the third volume, and I almost started to read it, and I was like, no, wait, there's something wrong here. I don't know why, but there is something wrong. I remember it being called what it is.
Wait, so you bought Empire of Gold?
Yeah, it was like on sale for $3 or something for Kindle deal, and I'm like, oh, I heard this series is really popular and everybody loves it. Let me go ahead, and I'm like, wait a second, this cover, I don't think this
Doesn't look right.
and I had to look it up, and I'm like, well, I already have it, so I'm just waiting for the other ones to slowly go on sale too.
It's just an excuse to be sure that you actually like read the whole series, because that way you'll be like, all right, I'm waiting for volume, like I'm waiting to read the third book. It'll be time eventually. I read the third I keep saying volume. I read the third book in January, and it literally like it completely blew my mind. It was really good. So
That's an adult series or a YA series?
it's an adult series.
Okay.
It's an adult fantasy series. It's very good.
Also, Mabel, yes, there are several adaptations. I recently got on NetGalley Anne of Green Gables, and then also Jane Eyre.
I might have gotten Jane Eyre as well, I think. I have not checked my NetGalley app in a while, but yeah. But I enjoyed the Count of Monte Cristo when I read it correctly in the right order, which felt like, I mean, like, I'm a manga reader veteran. Like, I've been doing this for like over 10 years, and then to read an entire manga the wrong way just felt like, like, did I learn nothing?
I don't blame you. You know what happened to me when I started reading Inuyasha last month was like I was reading it online and it was going in the right to left, like traditional style. So automatically I was reading the panels right to left. So like this bubble, this bubble, this bubble. And it wasn't making any sense. But it turns out that I guess whoever did the scans, they kept it in, yeah, so they kept it in traditional right to left page format, but they switched the bubbles to left to right format. And I was like, what is happening? But it took me like a good volume to figure it out.
That's a little bizarre. I think.
Yeah, it was a little bizarre.
Because I feel like whenever I've read scans for like really long series, usually like the first 10 volumes or whatever are like regular right to left, it's fine. But every once in a while, like one scanlation artist is just like, let's switch it up, and they just like flip the whole thing so it's like left to right, and I'm like, you didn't have to do this. So you read like chapter like 35, and then chapter 36 is flipped, and then chapter 37 is like back to like regular like right to left, and I'm like, make up your mind. I'm so confused. I had to like figure it out every chapter. Like, did you do something? What happened? I just don't know.
Yeah, check them out.
I didn't know there was a Pride and Prejudice one, but I guess I'm not surprised, being that it seems like they're adapting a lot of.
They are. There's a Romeo and Juliet one, and it was kind of weird to look at first because it was like it was still in the traditional Shakespearean type. Like they didn't change anything of the script. It's just these anime characters talking in this like whatever. What was that? The 1500s English. It was just like a little. It was a little strange, but it was cool.
Oh, also, I just looked it up. I have the Les Mis one from NetGalley. So that'll be interesting as like a fan of the musical to see like how did they adapt it to a manga. Like Les Mis is just like, I hope they sing. I just don't know how, but I hope they sing. Way or another. It's very long though, because I know like the actual book is like 600 pages or something like that, I think.
The thing is chunker. I've seen it before. Like, it's massive. I thought about reading it because in my senior year of high school, we read excerpts for it in my one English class. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go read like the actual full thing. And then I saw, I'm like, okay, no, never mind.
No. I have been scrolling since the second I told you, oh, by the way, I have Les Mis, and I just got to the end of it. So that much scrolling at like high speed. It's a lot. It's very long.
How long is that? Yeah, there's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of manga. That's pretty cool. I'm hoping to like, because I know they have them in print also. I was hoping to like get some of them for my school library or something to help some of my students get into reading. Like, here's comic books. Reading is fun.
Inuyasha? I don't know. Maybe we should do Inuyasha too.
I'm totally down to do Inuyasha. So
well, this is exciting because like now we're finally doing like this is like the first full circle that we've done. So like everyone has done like their picks for a month, and now we're going all the way back to the beginning because Nana was the first one to do it in October, I want to say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, But I hate to cut the whole conversation short, but it is 1 o'clock, so we've been chatting for about an hour now. I do unfortunately have another live show I have to run to, but thanks so much for watching. Nana, do you want to talk about what we're reading next month briefly one more time?
Yeah, on the 28th of next month, we're going to be reading the first 3 volumes of The Way of the House Husband and the first volume of My Brother's Husband.
Yeah. If you want to know more about like what everybody's up to, definitely check out all the watch party kind of information. Definitely join the Discord. I have that in the description down below. And check out everybody who's on this live show. Preet unfortunately could not make it for us, but her channel's also linked down below. And we would love to see you next month when we discuss those things. And also hang out with us on the Discord, chat with us there. And we'll see you around other than that. But thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye, everybody.